10,000 years ago, there was 1 to 5 million human beings on Earth. So whatever they would do, there's no way that they could inflict any serious damage to our planet. Now, since the Industrial Revolution, Scientific Revolution, technological progress, multiply by 1,000 our capacity to act on the outer world. And then we entered, in 1950, the Anthropocene, the age where the activities of human beings become the major factor for the state of the planet. So that's taken us by surprise because nobody ever decided, I'm going personally to wreck the planet. So we don't feel responsible. It's a slow process. We don't see it happen. One of my scientist friends said, if the CO2 could be pink and we'll see the sky becoming pinker and pinker, we might worry a little bit more. But something that happens in 30 years, emotionally, we are not equipped to react to this long-term danger. So there is a problem. There's also a problem of dialogue between the scientists, which are mostly seen as, troublemakers when they tell the economists what should be changed to preserve the planet. And policymakers also are in trouble because they are worried with the next election, not next generation. That's a deep issue. So what concept could allow a common platform of thinking so that at least they can have something to discuss, to work together for a better planet? And that's why, after meeting over many, many years, a lot of psychologists, specialists of the evolution, economists, it emerged that the only concept that allows this common dialogue and not being completely dissociated is having more consideration for others, and there's nothing else. If you have more consideration for others, you will go more toward a caring economics, which is the only way to remedy to poverty in the midst of plenty and to worry about the common goods, which are the quality of the air, of the oceans, because the homo economicus, that is to maximize your personal preference and interest, there's no way that you will take care of poverty in the midst of plenty or take care of the environment. And then if you have more consideration for others, you will make sure that life in society can be more harmonious, there's less inequalities, there's more social justice, that people can have access to education, to something that allows them to fulfill their potential and their deep aspirations. And of course, if you have more consideration for others, then you cannot ignore the fate of future generations, even they are not alive today. I'm a Marxist, but of the Groucho tendency, not Karl. And Groucho said, why should I care for future generations? What do they do for me? But, I heard an American billionaire saying the same thing on Fox News. He said, about the rise of the ocean. He said, well, I find it absurd to change my behavior now for something that will happen in 100 years. So the idea that we could continue to use all the resources of the planet at the exponential speed that we are continuing to increase is like this president of a country that I will not name, who was saying about 10 years ago, 5 years ago we were at the edge of the precipice, now we made a big step forward. So that's exactly the attitude of people who say, let's continue endless growth. So the scientists have recognized what they call planetary boundaries. And there's a number of factors that if they don't go over the bench, then we can continue to prosper for another 50,000 years in the Holocene, which has been exceptionally stable climate period for 10,000 years. That's why human civilization could flourish. So if none of those goes too wild, then we could continue in that way. And that depends on activity. So in 1900, no big deal. We were well within the safety, even though it was not measured precisely, but we can guess what they were. 1950, you can see some of those are looming nearer from the limits, and then hold your breath just for a second, not too long. 2010, we vastly went over the border of safety. So just to take an example of biodiversity, it's not a prediction. At the current rate of disappearance of species, by 2050, we lost 30% of all species on Earth. And that's not going to stop, of course, at 2050. That's the sixth major extinction since the origin of life. The fifth one being that of the dinosaurs and many other species along. So this is a real serious matter, because that will not just the disappearance of a few frogs and stuff like that. So we are, here I'm sitting in front of a glacier in Bhutan. There are 2,000 glaciers melting in the Himalayas, the third pole, faster than the North Pole because there's dust settling on the glacier and they melt. So this is all something that is really looming, and you can see the speed of increase, for instance, of CO2 after 1950. And that is true for many other things like the loss of rainforest. And for instance, methane is an interesting case because it's 20 times more active to create greenhouse gas effect. and it's mostly due to livestock. It's the second cause of global warming after habitation and before transportation, and most of it, methane today, comes from raising livestock for meat, the whole chain of production from, sending food, grains from the poor countries to the rich one. Why? Because like in the USA, there's 120 kilos of meat per habitant per year, with about 3 or 4 in India and 5 in Africa, 80 in Europe. So methane is, we won't expect, but it is now become, according to IPCC report, the second cause of global warming. And that's, of course, has many aspects, ethical. We kill 100 billion land animals every year and 1,000 billion sea animals for our different kinds of use. It's an ethical problem. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for poverty because 700 million tons of grain has to be shipped from poor countries to rich ones to do that. So it's a kind of mess. And then, of course, ethically, it's not difficult to defend that. How can we go to conclude from individual change to societal change? Look at slavery. I think here in 1789, 10 people decided we want to abolish slavery. The parliament said there's no way the British Empire will collapse economically if we abolish slavery. 10 years later, it was done. So culture can change. That's the good news. So then what do we need to do that? We need to enhance cooperation. We need to bring cooperative learning in schools. We need to have more cooperation within enterprise. We need to have a sustainable harmony. We need caring economics. We need local commitment and global responsibility. And we need to extend altruism to the 1.3 million other species. And so, as Martin Luther King said, everyone must decide whether he will work in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness.